Sweden, Finland, and Norway in winter is a truly magical place and has been on my bucket list for a very long time. In addition to skiing, there are also more unknown winter sports activities, such as an icebreaker trip, a swim in the sea, motor sports, or snowmobiling through the snow-covered forests and over frozen lakes. Like most people, I dreamed of watching the dancing northern lights live. How did I and the expedition truck cope with the extreme cold? And did I really find the northern lights? Well, adventurers, let's find out. My adventure started in Gothenburg, where I made an appointment with a tire dealer to convert my winter tires into spiked tires. The spikes are screwed in with a cordless screwdriver so that they can be removed later. The whole thing took about 1.5 hours and was not too soon, as at the very next stop in Trollhättan, the Ice Queen took over the control with heavy snowfall and cold. The time had come for my merino underwear. I spent a warm, cozy night in Trollhättan, but then, the next morning, my battery warning light kept on when I was driving. It went out again after a while with the lights off, but the problem had to be fixed urgently before heading north. So, 70 kilometers back to the nearest Mercedes service station. The problem was solved pretty quick by connecting the alternator to the vehicle frame with a new grounding. We took the opportunity to tighten the V-belts, and then I could finally set sail for the north. The E45 is Sweden's highway to the north, and my route should more or less follow it. They try to keep the route free of snow, but after heavy snowfalls, this can take some time. Shortly afterwards, I was able to earn my reputation as a road angel. The truck driver from Turkey had been stuck in the snow for several hours. My investment into the spikes and a 30-ton tow rope had already paid off, and the Turkish-German friendship was also boosted. Further north, the E45 highway becomes a narrow road covered in snow and ice. Driving here is therefore an enormous challenge, especially encountering other trucks. The center markings are barely visible, and the edge of the road is not properly cleared. The most common cause of accidents here is getting too far into the snow with the right wheels. The vehicle is then pulled to the right into the ditch as if by a magnet, as in this case. 2 kilometers further on, the next truck was already stuck in the ditch, but I was extremely lucky myself. Despite spikes and winter tires, I went straight ahead at this junction instead of to the right. Fortunately, the snow was soft, and there was no other vehicle around. The front wheels were deep in the snow, but thanks to the differential locks, I was able to free myself. It is difficult to find places to stay overnight in the forests in winter, as most of the tracks are not cleared. In Hamra National Park, I was lucky to find a cleared track. It was actually too narrow for my truck, and the snow was over 1 meter deep on both sides. A nature park ranger recommended this small parking bay to me, right next to a shelter with a fireplace and firewood. Standing around a campfire in complete loneliness in the snow-covered Swedish forests in the Arctic cold, those are the magical moments you will remember forever. I had found the true spirit of the North. The park administration sent the snow service the next morning. I was therefore able to continue on the snowy road through the national park. It hadn't been completely cleared, but the snow wasn't a major problem for the truck. The shock of my excursion into the ditch was still in my bones when I almost did another 180-degree spin at a traffic circle in the next town, so I decided to fit more studs. The mechanics were pretty smart. They just lifted the front wheels. Then you can turn the wheels without taking them off. After an hour, the new studs were fitted. On the way north, there was heavy snowfall all day, and I had to stop every few kilometers to clear the snow from my icy windscreen wipers. And yet another truck was stuck in the snow. I couldn't pull it out forwards, so we tried it backwards. Despite spikes, winter tires, and differential locks, unfortunately, nothing could be done in this case, so heavier equipment was needed. Nevertheless, the driver from the Ukraine thanked me with a few cans of beer. When I was looking for a place to spend the night, I was also caught out. I moved a little too far to the right when swerving, and then I went into the ditch. Fortunately, I was driving very slowly, but I couldn't free myself. So that I didn't have to spend the night in the ditch, I stopped the next car, which was coming from the area, and called the wheel loader from the nearest village. First we tried it backwards, which unfortunately didn't work, but I managed to get out of the ditch forwards with the help of my differential locks. Fortunately, nothing was damaged on the truck, and the roadside assistant was satisfied with the last of my cash. 80 euros. The next morning started cold and stormy, but sunny. I tested the braking grip several times. Up to 60 kilometers per hour were possible on a well-cleared, non-icy road. And so, it was a wonderful drive into the sunrise. The engine oil level must, of course, be checked from time to time, even in cold weather. The engine flap could be opened, but the closing mechanism was frozen, and the plastic of the radiator grill was broken in the cold. Duct tape doesn't stick in these temperatures, so I carried out a smart repair, pouring water over slabs of snow. And in no time at all, the flap was frozen solid.
It's better than you.
Snowmobile tours are offered quite frequently in the north, and of course I couldn't resist. Unfortunately, it was minus 20 degrees that day, and the tour guide had recommended putting on everything you had, because the tour lasted over 3 hours. Snowmobiles are between 60 and 120 horsepower. The maximum speed is between 120 and 180 kilometers per hour. From a speed of 50 kilometers per hour, it gets very bumpy, and I didn't dare to go faster than 60. Snowmobiles tip over quite often, and it is better not to land under the machine, which weighs around 200 kilograms. You should also never travel alone because the snow off the path is over a meter deep. Who hasn't dreamed of sailing across the frozen sea on an icebreaker? Sweden has 4 official icebreakers. The Polar Explorer has been used for tourists since 2016. An icebreaker pushes itself onto the ice with its bow, and then breaks it with the weight of the ship. The diesel consumption is 1,000 liters per hour. You can move around the ship quite freely and visit the engine room and the bridge. After a while, the ship stops in the middle of the sea, and you can leave it via the gangway and walk around the ship. If you are now asking yourself the question, is it safe to leave the ship? The answer to this question is loud and crystal clear. Well, yes. The ice, which is up to 70 centimeters thick, can support heavy bodies, and is perhaps not the real problem. But the absolute highlight of the tour is the swim in the Baltic Sea, between the ice floes. You put on a neoprene dry suit, which is absolutely waterproof, and then you go into the water. The air in the suit provides excellent insulation, and you float like a cork on the water. It's impossible to sink, and an unforgettable experience. Shortly afterwards, I crossed the border into Finland and continued my journey on small icy side roads through the endless forests of Finland to the north. Sometime later, I reached the Arctic Circle for the first time on my own wheels. What is it actually like to live in an expedition vehicle above the Arctic Circle at temperatures as low as -30 degrees? In short, warm, cozy, and dry. The 6-kilowatt diesel heater keeps the cabin nice and warm at all times and is more than adequately dimensioned. The cabin has no cold bridges, only the windows freeze a little on very cold nights. In the morning, simply wipe off the moisture and air the vehicle thoroughly to keep the interior dry. The vehicle is gas-free and cooks with an induction hob, which is also the biggest energy consumer. The battery is charged by the engine or via the solar panels on the roof, but this doesn't work sufficiently in winter. If you plan to spend several days in the wilderness, you can use an emergency generator or, like me, a small gas stove that I carry for safety reasons. Scandinavian hospitality is legendary, which is not only reflected in the excellent cuisine, but also in lovingly designed architectural gems. The Northern Lights Village is a village of small huts with a north-facing glass roof. The bed is underneath, so if you're lucky you can see the northern lights from your bed. After almost 3 weeks in Scandinavia, I was still eagerly awaiting my first northern lights. I wonder if that would become a reality on this trip.
It's pretty cold. "200 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle in Finland is the Snow Village Hotel. It consists entirely of snow domes that are connected to each other and is rebuilt every winter. And the hotel rooms are lovingly designed differently by designers. There is a restaurant, a slide, and an ice bar. But how is the hotel actually built? Surprisingly simple and ingenious. A dome air cushion is inflated and surrounded by scaffolding. Fresh snow is filled into the space in between, compacted and sprayed with water. As soon as the dome is finished, the air cushion is removed and the next dome is built. Winters are long and harsh in Finland. And winter sports are not only practiced on skis and sledges. Because of the harsh weather conditions, the Finns are considered to be some of the best drivers in the world. To put a misquote in the mouth of Karl Clausewitz, the famous military scientist, I had expected an epic battle against brave Finns, but I found only tourists and victims, but no opponents. Could have come from Clausewitz. But it's from me, Marcus. The snow village in Finland was already extremely impressive.
and I didn't expect the ice hotel in Sweden to be any better. Founded in 1989 near Kiruna to attract tourists to the north, it is now an institution that attracts countless tourists all year round. You can stay overnight in the rooms and suites. The suite costs 1,300 euros per night, or enjoy the hotel as a visitor during the day. The construction time is about 6 weeks every year and requires 10,000 tons of ice and 30,000 tons of snow. For some years now, there has been a permanent ice structure, which is kept at -5 degrees Celsius in summer with air conditioning. The rooms are designed by artists, with each room representing a specific theme. In addition to the ice bar, you can also try your hand at being an ice artist.
Well, it's meant to be, it's going flames.
Flames, okay. Makes sense with ice flames. Okay, well, as an artist, why not?
Slowly but surely, it was time to put in some serious kilometers heading north. The next morning, I set off very early to drive the last 500 kilometers to the North Cape. The snow-covered winter landscape became a treeless tundra with low bushes. The North Cape is located on the island of Magaroya and is connected to the mainland via the 7-kilometer-long Nordkapp Tunnel. The road passes under the sea and reaches a depth of 212 meters, which makes your ears pop. The road conditions were extreme. Although the sun was shining brightly, it was accompanied by extremely strong winds and snow drifts and, in some places, completely icy roads. And then, finally, the North Cape, on my bucket list for decades, but never reached.
Made it! Oh my god, what a trip.
Staying outside was no fun because of the storm, despite appropriate clothing, but it was nice and cozy in the truck. The night at the North Cape was very stormy. Sleeping was only possible with earplugs, and the truck shook like a train all night. At least I could see the northern lights, even if I couldn't photograph them because of the storm. Logically, all roads lead south from the North Cape, and the Norwegian coast is one of the most beautiful and varied coasts in the world. Fjords, islands, and bays, the breathtaking coastline cumulates in the island of Senja and Lofoten. Hundreds of islands and islets, many inhabited and connected by ferries, underwater tunnels, and spectacular bridges. The Lofoten Islands are located about 100 to 300 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle in the Atlantic Ocean, and are undoubtedly one of the most beautiful landscapes in the world. On my first night in the Lofoten Islands, I was rewarded with the Northern Lights, easily and conveniently right outside the door of my camper. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce the most famous, most beautiful, and most insignificant soccer pitch in Scandinavia, perhaps even in the world? The soccer pitch belongs to the small, picturesque fishing village of Henningsvær, which stretches across several small islands, and was named one of the most beautiful sports fields in the world by National Geographic in 2017. Around 500 inhabitants live here, and the fishing port is one of the most important in Lofoten. The history of the village dates back to 1769, and it has retained its natural charm to this day. The location on the islands in the middle of the North Atlantic is spectacular in itself. A little further south on the Lofoten Islands, you will find Nusfjord, another beautiful fishing village. The village is now a museum village, and some of the cabins are rented out to tourists. Due to the high fjord, the harbor offered protection early on, and the area was settled as early as 400 AD. Up to 1,500 fishermen used to live and work in Nusfjord. Just south of Lofoten is Moskines, another idyllic place, surrounded by majestic mountains and the rough sea. This is one of Lofoten's most popular photo locations, which can easily be photographed from the bridge next to it. Photographers from all over the world can be found here at any time of day or year. The southern tip of the Lofoten Islands is connected to the mainland by ferry. As the Lofoten Islands are located in the Gulf Stream, spring was already slowly arriving here. Back on the mainland and on the border with Sweden is the Saltfjellet National Park, where cold, ice, slippery roads and meters of snow were back. A fairy tale landscape. Crossing the Arctic Circle again, this time heading south, was another emotional moment. You can see my fun in my permanent grin, but the joy wasn't to last too long. In a tunnel, another truck drove off my wing mirror, without stopping, of course. He drove on my side, and I couldn't go any further to the right. I was lucky that he didn't tear up my whole side. Encounters with other trucks were the most stressful and dangerous part of the journey. To avoid ending up in a ditch, everyone drives as far as possible in the middle of the road, and that goes wrong at some point. The mirror that came off was just the tip of a series of hair-raising situations. But wait, Marcus, wasn't there another serious situation with the truck? Oh yes, that's right. 2 hours after the first attempt to fix my alternator problem, this happened. On the same day that I had the V-belts retightened, 27 kilometers before the next town, I broke down in a parking bay with a steaming truck. At first, I thought it was a cable fire, and not until the afternoon of the following day did the truck service arrive. At the garage, they quickly found out that the water pump was destroyed. This was caused by over-tensioning the V-belts in the first workshop. The replacement part was ordered and fitted in Germany without any problems. I rented this small, cozy Swedish house and a rental car for 5 days and sat out a heavy snowstorm. Actually, I only had a cable shoe contact problem for €5, which then led to a destroyed water pump by the first mechanic. Incidentally, the second workshop then forgot to tighten a bolt on the exhaust pipe, which meant that my turbocharger no longer worked properly, and the cooling water system wasn't completely tight either. Broken repaired vehicles can also occur with new vehicles. After all, I do have now a few new parts in the vehicle. The harshest winter in Scandinavia for 25 years. Mountains of snow and record temperatures down to minus 43 degrees. Cancelled trains and closed highways, 7,000 kilometers on ice roads. How was the trip? And would I do anything differently? Apart from my little truck hiccups, great. Both man and machine coped extremely well with the temperatures. The route planning was very good. I started in Gothenburg at the beginning of February and was on the road for 6 weeks. I drove the loop to the North Cape in an anti-clockwise direction. I would do it clockwise today, because then you can experience the Lofoten Islands in the depths of winter. Otherwise, winter tires and as many spikes as possible. Although the spikes were already relatively worn out after about 2,000 kilometers. I hope you had fun too. Subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up. See you soon.